conversation going to be about?
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back to another fabulous year of virtual travel. Yet another one on Adventures with Sarah. We're hoping it's not going to be all virtual, but for now, we're staying home because actually, my child is home with me today because Seattle Public Schools have closed for the day for everybody to get COVID testing. Anyway, so I thought what we might do this week, if Lucca agrees, is do a week of talking about traveling with teenagers, because that is something that we have done quite a bit.
Why would you do that?
Why would I do that? I don't know.
Not very interesting.
Yes, you are. You're very interesting. You're fascinating, really. So this is my son, Lucca, if you don't know. His name's Lucca Quinn Murdoch Howard. He is 17 years old, and he has traveled to, I don't even know how many countries now.
Well, let's see. There's Vietnam, Thailand,
Yeah.
Cambodia, and then like 3 European countries.
Scoot forward just a little bit. There we go.
3 European countries and 3 North American ones, the big ones.
Yeah. So Lucca has traveled with me on, Vietnam and Thailand tours, Cambodia. You've been to Italy a whole bunch. He's been to England. He's been to France. So he's traveled an awful lot. So I thought let's just go ahead and start off with what is it like to be the child of a tour guide?
It's not as bad as you think.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's on a typical year, before the whole virtual travel type thing, and before Mom started her own business, she'd be gone for about a third of the year, which is less, like a quarter of the year. And then, of course, you have FaceTime and all that. So she's not really gone for that much. You can FaceTime her whenever you like. And she always brings back amazing presents. Like, I don't think I can eat Hershey's anymore because you always bring back the fantastic European candy. So.
And I brought you on a lot of the trips as well. So what is your first memory of traveling?
Getting off at the airport and getting my first cappuccino.
Where?
In the Rome airport.
In the Rome airport. So Lucca started traveling with me when he was 8 or 9.
9 years old.
9 years old. And that actually is the age I think is the best for introducing children to travel, if you can. Start them around 8, 9 years old. Latest would be middle school, I think. Middle schoolers are fabulous travelers, I think. No, they are. Middle schoolers are so funny because they're so awkward.
Goblin children.
They are, but they're so awkward, but they're also so interested in the world, and they fear authority still.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I highly recommend traveling with kids who are under 14. I don't know about over 14.
Well, okay, high schoolers are... If you can make us interested in what we're seeing, then we're good travelers. But if we just go to a whole bunch of boring temples, I actually really like temples, so I'm speaking for people other than me. But
so how do you think that... So I've integrated travel into your lifestyle.
Yeah.
How do you think that has made you different from other kids?
It makes you think about... It kind of puts... It, reveals the rest of the everything. It sort of feels like there's more out there that you can see eventually, and there's a lot more to experience, and you learn a lot. Your brain just kind of works differently in a way that, all of my actions here are not as big as the world. Because I have a feeling that a lot of other, teenagers that haven't gone that many places are like, okay, well, this is my world. This is bounds of Seattle. But then, if you travel, you're just kind of like, oh, there is so much to do and so much to see, and yeah.
Okay, so that's the bottom line on it, is that it's given you a broader sense of what the world is, yeah, and your place in it, and maybe the sense that stupid little petty things at school are not as important as they seem. That's not bad. I'll take that. That's pretty good.
So parents out there, if you want your children not to get into drama, then take them on trips. Buy my mom's tours if you don't want drama.
He's also a very good salesman. So, So your first thing you ever remember was having a cappuccino. What was the best travel experience that you've had?
Oh, I think you know what I'm going to say.
I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's definitely Taormina. The first time that I ended up going there. I remember being outside the gate of the city and buying one of those, one of those fiki d'India. And it was not good, but it was, like, kind of humid and everything smelled good. Or no, it didn't smell good. It smelled bad, but it smelled different. And it was really, really nice.
So that's what he's talking about is the prickly pears in Sicily. They have cactus everywhere, and the prickly pears, they sell them in the summertime, really super cold, and they're just a very particular flavor. Either you kind of like them or you don't, and they have big seeds. That's the only thing I don't like is that the seeds are kind of crunchy. So, okay. What's the worst thing that ever happened to you traveling?
Well, I don't think I can say that there's a worst thing. It's all good. Like, even the bad things that happen are good.
Well, tell a story about something that didn't go the way you expected.
Well, I can tell the story about the Vietnamese lady who went on who went on the train, but I think you were more upset than I was in that situation. So,
No, tell the story.
Okay. So
make it concise though.
Okay, so concise. We were on a train. We were going from one place in Vietnam to the other, and we were boarding the train, and we enter our cabin to find that there's somebody else in it. And we reserved the entire train for our tour group. There should not have been anybody else in that train. And we realized that, oh my gosh, they put this lady in the wrong train. And
no, she ran, like we were walking to the train, this lady ran in front of our group, like literally bolted and jumped into the car before my group even got to the cars.
And they tried to remove her. They offered her a lot of money. And she wouldn't budge. And it was because it was the Chinese New Year. And and if she didn't travel then she'd have bad luck for the rest of the year. And so we traveled with this very polite. She was extremely polite, so it wasn't actually that bad.
Polite. She didn't say a word the whole time.
She didn't say a word. She was very quiet, but we traveled with just some lady.
Yeah, she actually had jumped into the cabin of one of my clients, and they came to me and said, "Oh my gosh, there's this lady in our car. It's 4 bunks, and we had bought all bunks just for 2 people. She was in the upper bunk." So then Lucca and I swapped with that couple, and then just had to deal with the lady. And she did not move. She didn't even get up to go to the bathroom. I think she was afraid if she got up to go to the bathroom, we'd lock her out, which we probably would have actually. But yeah, they ended up giving me a big pile of money as I'm sorry, but that was a good. Yeah. And what about the people that you've met when you've traveled? What's the most memorable person you've met in your travels?
2 people stand out, Alvina and Ken.
Ken? Oh, in Cambodia. Okay,
yeah,
tell them about those 2.
So Alvina is the princess. So, you're going to remember the princess, but she is the most kind, amazing lady. She took us out, and she went to the, arancha is the rice balls?
Arancine. Yeah.
We went to the arancine shop, and she was like, "Oh, io sono la principessa di Sicilia." And it was very funny. And she introduced herself as the the princess of Palermo, and it was she.
No, she did. Well, no, she just said she's the countess. She's a contessa. She was just
contessa.
like, I'm the contessa from Federico or whatever, the Conte Federico. This is my friend in Sicily in Palermo, Alvine Federico. She's amazing. Has nothing to do with the fact that she lives in a castle and she's a countess. It's that she's
just an interesting person.
She's just a sparkly, kind, enjoyable person to spend time with. Just such a positive person.
Nico picked up. She has a house full of weapons and armor that her family has brought into battle at various points in history. And Nico picked up a long sword that was as tall as him and put on a hat. And by a hat, I mean...
helmet.
A helmet.
Like armor.
That was probably far too big. And the Contessa went and she was like, "Oh, put on the rest of the armor. We don't have the arm piece because we lost it while the kids were playing with it while they were younger." And it's like, oh, this is easily 500 years old. Easily.
Yeah.
And it was just the funniest thing. Okay, long enough on Alvine, on to Ken. Ken, I love studying 20th century history, and Ken is the child of the worst of it. And he was born during the Khmer Rouge out of a actual government breeding program where they would take people from urban places and combine them.
Different ethnicities.
Different ethnicities in an attempt to create a more homogenous Cambodia. And he was the result of that. His parents stayed together afterwards because they liked each other. That was not the case for a lot of people. But I think the most tragic story is that he was he was a child soldier. He was I met him when I was like 13, 14 in middle school. And he was... and so when I was about his age, they pulled him out of school, gave him a gun, and sent him to the front line. But his father, in probably the most inspirational thing I've ever heard, put him in a temple guarding position, which was basically like the most cushy job that you can get.
Well, his dad, if I remember
so that
correctly,
he could go and fight on the front lines.
Yeah,
he
his
died.
dad exchanged. No, he didn't die. But
He
his
didn't
dad,
die?
no, he didn't.
I thought he died.
No, he didn't. His dad exchanged like positions so that he fought for his son. Yeah.
Which is, but he is also the funniest person ever. He has the darkest sense of humor.
He is.
Of course, as being a middle schooler at the time, I was so into it. And he's just the most amazing person. Buy the Cambodia tour. You will meet him and you will love him. You will love him. I promise.
I'm not paying him for this.
No, I like money too. You guys...
So we're talking about Kyung, our friend in Cambodia, who you may have seen on here a couple of times. So we'll probably have him on again soon. Hopefully I'll have him on again soon to do some more walks around Angkor Wat and things like that. So, all right. So those are the most interesting people you've ever met. What was the most memorable destination you visited? Outside of Taormina, that's your favorite. That's my favorite. Memorable could be good or bad. Or memorable day. What was the most memorable day?
Oh, God. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind would be... I don't know. I mean, the thing that comes to mind is the Grand Temple in Bangkok, because that is...
Oh, yeah.
It's indescribably
the Grand Palace.
Grand.
Yeah.
It's the Grand Palace. It's the grandest palace that's ever granded in the scheme of grandeur.
The other thing that's crazy about it is it's just so overwhelmingly crowded and full of colors and like creatures it's a lot. It's a lot.
All of your senses are bombarded. You look and it's always color, and you smell and it smells good, and it is a delight of the sensations, and you can go around. And,
so you would say Asia is a good destination to take teenagers?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think would be the best first destination for a teenager?
Destination. I would say nowhere that like they've ever heard of. Like, say that we're going to Cambodia, and they're going to be like, "What's Cambodia?" Because then that means you don't have any expectations. Like, and then because I mean, as a teenager, you're probably going to want to be disappointed so that you can piss off your parents. So if you're already disappointed when you're heading into it, and then you just like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best place ever," then yeah.
Okay.
And probably the most different place, too. You're going to want a different place.
So what do you think about traveling to places? Do you think that people should take kids where they speak English? Because that is what I hear from a lot of parents, is they want to take their kids to England first because people speak their language and it's easy. No, I'm just saying that that's something a lot of people choose to do. They take their teenagers first to an English-speaking place.
Everybody speaks English everywhere. I mean, they might not speak good English, but they speak English everywhere. And so just take them to a place. I'd say take them to the place that's most different, because that means then they'll come back and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, the world is so big."
Yeah, so take them to something like Thailand. Thailand is a very good destination.
Yeah, and it's a starter destination. You have the beautiful beaches and the big cities and the awesome countryside. And
everybody speaks English for the most part anyway, but it feels very foreign.
Yeah, it's like the most foreign comfortable place.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Well, besides maybe like Japan.
So let's say that there are people out there with kids or grandkids who don't want to travel. What advice would you give the parents and the grandparents to convince those kids to travel?
Do it anyway. Bring them to a place that's cool and fun, and then they'll want to.
Give them no choice.
Give them no choice. Just like say, "We're going." Because I mean, think about this. It's again, if you take them to the right place, then they're just going to want to be there. And so then,
It's true.
And it doesn't matter what you can force them on the plane. You are their parents. And then once they get there, as long as it's interesting, then that means they're going to want to stay.
So I have a slightly different take on that. I would say that probably the best way to get kids interested in travel is to involve them in the planning. You like that, don't you?
Oh yeah. Actually, never mind. Because what is that child psychology thing? Is give them two choices and then they'll feel involved.
Yeah, I used to do that for you guys when you were little. Would you like to take a nap or do you want to clean your room? Which would you like to do?
Take a nap.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you give them a choice, so you're like channeling them into the thing you wanted them to do anyway, but they think it was their idea.
Would you like to go to a Turkish prison or would you like to go to Bangkok?
Turkish prison would be interesting. I mean, if we're just visiting.
You're just visiting a Turkish prison.
But you know me, I like to try everything, so so that I think that's a really good idea, is to, especially since there's two of you. I mean, you and Nico. What I think is fun when we travel is to give you guys each like a different day to plan. Yeah. So, and what's the thing you hate the most about travel? I can think of something you hate. But
what do I hate the most about travel? I love everything about travel. Even the things that I don't like. Even the things that I don't like about travel, I always think back and I'm like, oh, that was so fun.
No, you don't. You don't like giving directions.
Giving directions?
You don't like being the navigator.
Oh, I hate. Well, that's only because you get mad at me when I screw up. If I navigated perfectly, then I would love navigating. But
you get too stressed out.
I get too stressed out because it's like, which of the 4 roads is it on this one intersection? Oh God.
Yeah, you get too stressed out when you're the navigator.
Yeah.
So, and as far as food goes, you guys are omnivores. Really, you eat everything. Do you have any advice for parents and grandparents out there on how to get their kiddos to eat the local food?
No.
Thanks.
That's the one thing that kids can do, is that if they don't want to eat the food, then they won't eat the food. And there's nothing that you can do to force feed them. But here's the thing that you can do, parents out there. Take your kids to a foreign food now. Oh, the no thank you bite.
Yes.
She does a thing where it's the no thank you bite, and you have to take one bite of whatever you're eating, and then that's it. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to eat anymore. But please, I beg of you parents, I have begged my friends, please, can we go out for Ethiopian or like Thai or something like that? And they're always like, no, it's gonna be gross. And it's not. You just take them out, please.
That's a really good tip, actually, Lucca. If you're gonna take kids on a trip to Japan, to take them out ahead of time for Japanese food, so maybe they can try it and they can at least get a sense of what it is. Yeah. And every place has hamburgers at the end of the day. But, what I have found leading all of the family tours is that the parents that were really indulgent and let the kids have chicken nuggets or french fries everywhere, those kids were doing that to manipulate their parents, as it turns out. And what I found was, if I encouraged all the kids to eat the local food, that peer pressure made those kids eat the local food, and then they always like it. It's
always good food. You're never going to take a tour and you're going to be like, oh, this food is so gross, unless you go to the cafe in Hanoi where they're eating the see-through dumplings and it's like, ooh, what's that?
Or if you're going to I don't know.
That's why you need to buy our tours. That's why you need to buy our tours, is because we will always feed you good food and you will never have bad food on the trip.
I did not ask you to promote my tours, but anyway, thank you though, since you are Adventures with Sarah and Sons. So eating the food is a big deal. Do you have any packing tips? I thought maybe this week we could do actually a packing video where you can show people, because you're a boy, number one, and also you're a teenager.
Well, for teenage boys, my backpack, when I went to Thailand for the first time, my school backpack weighed more than the backpack that I took to Thailand.
That's true.
Like, I had 3 books in there and a computer and a binder with a whole bunch of papers, and in the end, my school backpack weighed much more. Now, for girls, I have no idea, because, I'm not a girl, first of all, but, just encouraged to pack light, I guess.
I think what we'll do is later this week, since we're just going to talk about family travel all week this week, we will have you actually show what you would pack, hypothetically, if you were to go someplace. I think that the main key is that most kids don't need half of what we think we need. most kids are happy to wear the same outfit every day. Yeah, no, it's true. Most kids do. But the one thing the kids can't live without is their cell phones, right?
This is our life. This is an extension of our body.
Yeah, so that I think is an important point. Is
Pack batteries.
Backup batteries, and then the other thing I think that for parents to think about is making sure your kids have an international cell phone plan like T-Mobile that can work other places, because I've seen kids get really stressed out. But on the other hand, the flip side is you just say no Wi-Fi at all, because there were days when we were driving around southern Italy that the kids, and in Sicily too, the kids were on their phones too much. Remember when I said, okay, no more phones because you're not paying attention to what's going on outside?
Yeah, I remember that was the thing that I didn't like.
Yeah, I know you didn't like it, but sometimes it's really important.
Here's the thing, though. If we're doing interesting things, then we don't need our phones. So just do interesting things to monopolize our monopolize our time. Then we won't need to be off our phones because we'll already be off our phones.
So probably the best thing to do is to have, bless you, salute.
Excuse me, everybody.
I think the best thing is to have an agreement with your teenagers ahead of time about the use of devices, don't you think? Because, like, if I say, look, when we're on a bus or in a car or we're on a train or a plane or something, that's screen time as much as you want. Mm. But when we're walking around a city, I don't want you on your phone walking through Rome like this, texting your friends.
Well,
that's a fair request.
Well, here I have a counter proposal.
Okay.
How about instead of that, what you do is you have a deal that you can be on your phone as much as you want, but you need to be interacting with your environment with that phone. Like, say, you need to take X amount of pictures, or you need to film a long form, like, sped up video, and so that you can remember your time in the city through your phones. Or better yet, just if you see them on their phones, just pull them into the nearest temple and say, "Hey, look at how awesome this is."
Yeah, or you can even kind of use technology as a way to assign sort of the use of it. For example, I saw this in a movie or somewhere. I saw that somebody was filming 10 seconds a day. That's what they asked their kids to do, was to film 10 seconds a day and then thread it together to make a review of the trip. Because then if you do that, let's say you're on, a trip for 2 weeks, that's 140 seconds. So it's a really easily watchable little kind of thing. So that could be a fun project, is just to tell your kids, yeah, you can use your phone, but here's the things I want you to do. I want you to do an online scrapbook. I want you to do a review video at the end. Like, force them to use their technological skill to create something that everybody will enjoy at the end.
I agree with that. I think a good way to look at it is that if your kid is on their phone too much, that means they're bored, and that is indicative of a problem that needs to be solved. So, because our generation will never be bored again. Boredom has been eliminated through our phones. We will never be bored again. It's true.
I think boredom is healthy, to be honest. Well, I love the
gone.
idea of...
It's gone. It never exists.
Okay, but I love the idea of parking you and your brother without your phones, like, in a cabin in the woods.
Well, then we'll be bored, but I mean...
Well, no, but, like, then you find stuff to do. You go outside and you build a tent out of sticks, or, like, you dig a hole to China, or, like, I mean, I know I sound like an old fart, but, like, I very much enjoyed not growing up with a cell phone.
Well, but this is the thing, though. If you relate it back to travel, is that if your kids are on your phones, then that means that you just need to do something. Like, if they're on their phones too much in the middle of the countryside, then pull over and be like, look at this field. Because it's going to be a cool field, because it's not home.
Okay. Well, I'm here today, just for those of you that are just joining us, having a coffee chat, my little coffee and his little coffee. We're having a coffee chat about traveling with teenagers. And my special guest today is my child, Lucca Howard. Poor little Lucca, having to be my guest today. If you have any questions, or you're wondering about what the best way to travel with kids and teens is, go ahead and post that. We're going to be talking about that all week here on Adventures with Sarah. I used to run family tours, so I have worked with children from the age of 5 up to college age, and I'd like to think I know what I'm doing when it comes to teens, but
she actually does.
Every kid is different, though. I mean, that's the thing, is you have to kind of... So I think do you feel that starting to travel at 9 was too young? Or do you think you could have started earlier?
Well, I don't really have any memories before 9, so...
But do you remember that trip?
Oh, God, yeah. So...
See, that's really interesting because, yeah, the first time I went to Europe was when I was 10, and I remember it pretty well. But I think before the age of 9, you don't remember stuff, do you?
Yeah, no, not really.
Like, you don't remember
trips. Unless, really, something weird or traumatic. Like, I remember the first time that I spelled cat in kindergarten, and then I don't even remember, anything through the 3rd grade.
Do you remember when you went to Hawaii for your 6th birthday?
Well, of course, but I mean...
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, yeah, take your kids and travel with them a lot, because they will remember it. Never mind.
But it's true, though, that you don't remember... It's hard to remember your childhood as much as it is, from your teen years on. You do remember things better.
Yeah.
You're paying more attention.
Yeah.
No, I think that that's true. So... what do you think are the best destinations, cities? Let's go talk about cities. What are the best cities to take teenagers to?
Oh, I love cities, but maybe that's just because I'm a urban type guy. But take them to the most different city. Because when you come back to your city, then that means your head is going to be spinning with ideas as to, how different it is. And,
But different can be a lot of different things, though. I mean...
It can be smaller, it can be bigger.
Paris is very different than Seattle.
Paris is different from Seattle. Hanoi is different from Seattle. And they're both different in different ways.
Cairo is definitely different than Seattle.
I've never been to Cairo, but it sounds like it's
You will be
different.
going to Cairo eventually. Yeah. So that's another question that comes to mind for me is safety. Have you ever felt unsafe traveling as a kid?
No.
What? It's a good question.
It's a good question, but no.
No?
I've never felt genuinely unsafe while I was traveling. It's as long as you just stick to the main arterials and don't go to any completely deserted streets.
And this is another reason that I really recommend if you're traveling with kids to make sure they all have working charged cell phones with backup batteries and international phone cards, because when we're traveling together, I like to give the kids independence. And actually, when you went on your first trip, I think the reason you loved Taormina so much is that we were staying in this really pretty little apartment. And in the morning, I'm a sleeper. I don't get up early in the morning. And so I would let him get up early and I'd leave money on the table in front of the door. And he could go next door to the BAM bar and get us granita and brioche for breakfast and coffees and bring them back. And he thought that was amazing to have that kind of freedom, because in the U.S., I mean, he's 17 and I still don't feel comfortable letting him go to the grocery store by himself. That still freaks me out.
Everywhere is safer than the U.S. And also, this is a cool thing. Because of cars and the way that the cities are built, everything is far apart. And so you need to, schedule your time around going to places like going to the supermarket or going to the cafe. But in foreign places, you just get to walk across the street. And that is the best feeling in the world, is being able to just go out and get coffee from across the street.
Well, and I think just as a parent, I feel way safer and happier letting my children roam free outside of the United States. And I know that might sound weird, but I mean, I live in a major metropolis city in the United States. We live 5 miles from the center of downtown Seattle. We live near one of the most dangerous streets in the entire state. A 2-3 minute walk from our house is one of the most dangerous streets in the entire state. I don't even feel that safe going to my mailbox. I live in a nice neighborhood still, but in Bangkok, I was perfectly happy to let both of the kids have free time. When we were in Bangkok, I just let you and Nico go roam around.
Yeah, we literally live on we stay at the hotel. Hotel. Oh my God.
It's our home away from home.
It really is. It's home.
Yeah.
Because it's in a little alley, this hotel, and you can just walk across the street and get a coffee or talk with Taylor. The Taylor is so awesome.
We love the Taylors.
He's cheap too. Go on the Thailand tour, you'll get lots of those.
But we kind of know the people on the street, and everybody, if I send you guys out into our neighborhood in Bangkok, I know that you're going to be fine.
Yeah, because it's easy to find your way around and easy to find your way back.
And people are always so kind and helpful, and so even in places that you might think would be not so great to let kids roam freely, I've had no problem. Yes, your hair does look nice. He's got nice hair. Stop it. Yes, we know you have nice hair. Naturally curly hair. So the other thing that I've done is with like my family groups when I've been up in Switzerland up in the Alps, like I've encouraged the people always let your kids go, let them roam free. What's going to happen in Switzerland in Wengen? Like really, what are they going to do? Roll down a mountain? I mean, gonna get like
They're gonna bash their head on a rock after joyfully playing too hard.
yeah, I mean, you have to recalibrate what feels safe, I think, when you take kids traveling, because here nothing feels safe. Like I don't even like it when you ride your bike. Riding your bike, it's like it makes me and Nico especially because he's 14 and he's my baby, and like just the thought of him walking to the bus stop and taking the bus to school without being chaperoned is like
And that's the thing about foreign cities is that especially with older ones,
yeah.
They're designed for people and they're not designed for cars. That's the thing about US cities is that they're always designed for cars. And if you let your kids go in a European city that's designed for people, they will have so much fun. And I can tell you, it is so much fun to just like be in an Airbnb and be able to walk across the street and, have fun.
Well, and I think that it's more than just about having fun. It's that you see that other cultures, are maybe not there's not a best culture, I guess, is the question. Somebody has a question here I just wanted to look at. Are you going to do any family tours or do you allow kids on your tours? I do allow
kids on tours. We will take your money.
I would love to do family tours, and that could be something in the future. For now, if people want to do family tours, I'd be happy to do custom stuff for the moment, just because I haven't decided what I want to do. But maybe 2023 or 2024, I'll try to get back into doing family tours because I really enjoy it. I love working with kids, and it's just fun to just watch kids' minds open. I've had kids on my tours that have changed the course of their life after traveling because they saw a new career they didn't anticipate that they would be interested in. That just stuff like that. It's life-changing for kids. For those of us who are adults, it's like it's enjoyable. I've always wanted to do this. It's cool to see the Eiffel Tower, but for kids it can have a massive impact. That's
true. Like going to camp, I think the most life-changing thing that's ever happened to me, like in a tour, possibly just like in my life in general. But we stopped in a village in Cambodia on a bus. Everything was on stilts, which is the dirtiest place you've ever seen. People living there that are probably below in the extreme poverty sort of group of how poor you are. Yeah. And I looked at all those people and I was like, oh, they're happy too.
I remember that. And I remember thinking that right there was worth bringing him, is that he saw people that have nothing, no running water, no electricity. I remember you said they have no electricity, so they have no televisions. And I said, yeah. And he goes, but they seem really happy. And I said, yeah, they do.
That was a life-changing moment. That was like a view of the world altering moment. Like if you bring your kids on those sorts of things, I remember standing in front of a church in Rome and deciding, I'm going to be Catholic.
Yeah. I know.
It's like, seriously?
Oh, you're Catholic?
Well, of course.
Sorry.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, is that if you bring your kids on tours, it's gonna genuinely change their lives. Yeah. Especially if you do it like when they're younger, and I mean even through middle school too.
Yeah, I mean it's about the people you meet, it's about having new experiences. I don't know, I just think as a parent, I think the best thing I've ever done with you guys was to take you traveling as much as possible. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's the best money you can invest. I mean, college, cool, but I think the better investment is to take kids traveling so they can see the world and just understand that there's a lot more outside of their city, right? So what would you like to do this week to talk to people about traveling with teenagers? I think we should do a packing thing. We'll do a packing thing one day. I think we should do a cucina quarantena one day. So
let's do like something weird to show people that like even if you make things that are weird, kids are gonna like them.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to show you all about traveling with kids and teenagers, and we'll figure out different ways to help you learn about that if that's interesting to you. How do you manage sickness on your tours with teenagers? That's a great question.
Leave them in the hotel and then just like give them a phone. They'll be happy.
That's actually what we have done, is that Nico is very sensitive, and especially to heat. So when we were in Bangkok and it was 110 degrees outside.
Like 80% humidity.
Yeah, he just one day, and this is actually a really good tip in general. I mean, Nico was 12, was he? He's 14 now, so that was 2 years ago. Yeah, he was 12. And he just said one day, I don't feel good. It's too hot. I'm exhausted. Can I just stay home? So what he did was he stayed home that day. I just said, fine. I mean, it depends on how much you trust your kids.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on.
Okay,
So, yeah, so it just depends on how much you trust your kids. So I trust my kids completely. And so I said, fine, Nico, you don't want to go with us today on the tuk-tuk ride. That's fine. You can stay home. I gave him some money. And I said, and we were, of course, at the hotel in Bangkok where we know the staff and everything. And I said, if you want to walk across the street and get yourself something to eat, you can. Otherwise, just stay in the hotel room and, check in with me. So he had WhatsApp and he just texted me on WhatsApp. So that's how I handle when kids aren't feeling well, is give them, and it's not even just sickness. It's that I think sometimes kids just need a break. They need a break. They can't do things at the same pace that we do. And just another, I know you want to get to the other thing, but as a little side note, when we traveled with younger kids, because we traveled as a family with some younger kids a few years ago, and one of the main strategies when you have kids that are under 10, make sure you have a pool. Always have a pool, because little boys in particular need to exercise. They need to swim. They need to get energy out. Pools are great, especially because you can jump in and play with them, but then when you're done, you can sit on the pool deck and get a tan while they wear themselves out. Hot tip.
Okay, now, Kimberly McLaren, thank you for saying that. Thank you for making a comment.
Why don't you read the comment?
So, she says that she took her kids to the Dominican Republic, and they connected with a group of kids who played soccer with them. And that is so funny, because one of the other, one of those experiences that you really remember was that we were in a garden in Sicily. And it was my first trip to Italy. And there was 3 kids that were playing soccer. And I was just kind of walked in and started playing. I couldn't speak Italian at all. And so I just kind of, played. And you already know the rules to soccer. So it's just get the ball in the goal with your foot. And so if you see any kids playing soccer, push your kids towards them, because they'll play with them. And
it's a great way for children to learn the local curse words.
The local curse words, and also that no matter where you go in the world, that we're kind of all the same.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in the cynical way. I mean that in the optimistic way. Is that everywhere you go in the world, you'll be able to play with the people and have a fun time. I still remember those kids' faces, and that was when I was 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember their faces. What I remember about that is that I was sitting on a bench with all the other moms, and I do speak Italian, so I started chatting with the women who were sitting on the bench with me, and they were we were doing, what was cool is they're has your son eaten? Because we have snacks. And they pull out snacks out of their bags, and they call the kids over, and they handed snacks to Lucca, and it was just really cute, because it was sort of one of those moments where you're being a mom is the same everywhere, isn't it? It's you got a 9-year-old, you got snacks on you.
And that's the thing, is you learn lessons wherever you go. It's you learn from your trip to Cambodia, and you see the people who are less fortunate than you, and you're oh, well, people will always be happy. You play with the kids in soccer, and you say, oh, people are kind of the same everywhere, and they're always nice. And that's the thing, is by taking your kids traveling, that teaches every single thing that they do will teach them a lesson, even if the lesson isn't obvious.
It's true. And I think that kids are way more open to learning. And the thing that I want to also point out, not speaking about my children, who are special sweet angels that I've cultivated to be just this way, normal kids, you would be surprised. I've worked with kids for 15, 20 years, and let me just tell you that you'd be surprised. Even the kid you think would not be transformed in any way by traveling, maybe they're a super jock who's just really into their image, or maybe they're a kid who is super shy and they don't know how to interact with other people. Every single kid that I've ever traveled with, it has been transformational on some level, even if it's just a microscopic thing, like getting a child to eat escargot.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other story, but yeah.
You don't need to tell that story.
Even if they look like they're hating it, even if they look like they're miserable, I'm sure that they are having that they will remember that and they'll be like, oh, this is so fun.
Yeah, one of Lucca's greatest achievements was when we were doing a family trip. He got the little boys we were traveling with to eat escargot, and he thought that that was an amazing thing. It was quite a feat because those kids didn't like anything other than pasta. So, but that's good. Even the little tiny things, it opens the door to the wider world, and I think that's just for me as a tour guide. If people wonder like, what is it I love the most about my job? What's been most memorable? Working with the kids has been the most memorable. There's one girl I know that out there that she decided to go into architecture after traveling with me, which was really super sweet and amazing. So yeah, just kind of think about that, that it's worth the investment. A lot of people say, oh, that's dumb to spend several $1,000s on a child who's not going to remember it, and it's going to have a bigger,
You'll remember it.
it's a way bigger
The only
impact.
thing you'll remember.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think international travel has a much bigger impact on kids and teens than it does. But I would say kids minimum 8 years old. Before that, it's a waste because they're not really going to remember it. So,
No, even before it, because I remember that trip to Hawaii when I was 6. Like, I remember looking into the caldera and...
yeah, but the problem is if you go with kids that are littler, the equipment becomes exponentially more. Because you need... like, I remember that trip because Nico was little. And so there was, like, car seats and strollers and whatever, all the crap that goes along.
Cry on airplanes. And
the kicking of the airplane seats. And
this is here's a story that demonstrates that even the parts that suck, you'll remember, and they'll be fun in your memory. Remember, we had a row of seats in the plane, and it was great and all, but 2 seats in front of us, there was a toddler who wouldn't stop screaming
the whole time,
the entire flight
from New York to Rome.
Yeah, he wouldn't stop screaming, and we just wanted to cover our ears, and it was just terrible. But I remember that so fondly. It was so much fun.
The other hot tip I have for traveling with a parent or traveling with a kid is to make sure you have access to airport lounges. And I have the Delta Sky Club thing, but you can actually pay to join a thing called Priority Pass, which I really recommend if you're going to travel with children. Remember how we went to Hong Kong and we sat in that lounge? Especially with teenagers who eat so much food. We had a layover in Hong Kong 2 years ago on our way to Thailand that was like 7 hours or something. And that Priority Pass membership paid for itself because the kids ate constantly. They ate all the food. And it's so nice to have, especially if you have younger kids, the flight lounges at the airport corral everybody. Keeps everybody in the same place. Good Wi-Fi. Unlimited buffet food. The kids dig that. And the Priority Pass thing I want to say is a couple $100 to join a year, and then you can pay for guests. So I think it's well worth it. I'll talk about that at a later time and give you guys the information on it, but it's a great way to travel once you get traveling again. Let's see. You want to read that comment?
I was on a family tour once because ours got canceled the last minute. I was so amazed and enjoyed seeing Europe through fresh young eyes. Yeah, exactly. You can see, like, you can see, like, how just, like, the little neurons changing in the kids' minds.
You can. On the flip side of that, the comment that was just made is that an adult ended up on a family tour, even though they didn't want to go on a family tour. And I've had that before. I had this lovely woman who was older who ended up on a family tour just because she liked the itinerary. And I don't know that she understood when she bought the tour that it was a family tour. We loved her. She was everybody's grandma. She had such a great time. And what I came to realize at the end of that, I actually had also on a family tour a newlywed couple. They had no kids. But what I love, and this is true of all of my tours, is I love groups that are not homogenous. People of all different ages. I think that just makes it such a dynamic dialogue because when you travel, you get to know people in such a really different way. And one of the interesting aspects is the kids traveling in the group often will get to know adults who are completely out of their social age zone. And when you get to know other humans who are older than you but not related to you, that's really cool, don't you think?
That was me and Michelle on the Thailand tour.
Yeah.
Shout out to Michelle if you're watching.
Oh, you love Michelle.
And
Don and Steven also.
Don and Steven too. Like you very well made just like lifelong friends. We just had Don and Steven over. We met them on a Thailand tour. And so basically what we're saying, if you want friendship, or maybe to fall in love even, then buy our tours.
Well, let's start with me first before helping other people fall in love.
Here's a comment by Erica O'Grady.
Yeah.
One family brought their own tubs of peanut butter to feed the teenagers due to cost. This was 2008. I'm sure you can get peanut butter now. Oh,
Well,
that's so sad.
but
sad because that means they're not going to be eating the local food, and that's the best part.
I get that, but I think people have the impression that the eating out when they're traveling is expensive. I can guarantee you the United States has the most expensive food in the world. I have never been anywhere where I thought the food was more expensive than here. Maybe Japan, maybe, but every other place I've ever been, it's either this, I mean, if it's expensive, it's the same as the US. Of course, I live in Seattle where like I went out to a dinner the other night that for two people was almost $300 for just a regular dinner. So yeah, I know, I'm glad I wasn't paying. So when you think about that, just the food is the last thing you should be concerned about budget-wise. Also because the best food sometimes is like that creepy place with the bad dumplings in Hanoi.
There was a kid that won like Top Chef Kids or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And he's some interviewer asked her, "What's your favorite food you ever had?" And he was like, "Well, I'd like to say it was the filet mignon from the best restaurant in the world, but it was really the tacos from the grandma in El Cabo." And it's like, because the cheapest food is just gonna be the best.
Yeah, and and that's the other thing. A lot of people might worry about taking kids and feeding them street food. I feed my kids whatever with impunity. The only thing is just the water. Have kids drink the bottled water. That makes sense.
If you're not if you're in Europe.
In Europe, no.
If you're in Asia or Africa
Mexico, yeah, it's smarter because like a sick kid. Lucca got sick in Cambodia.
I'm so sad that I got sick because I didn't get to see the temples.
I know. He was so sick in Cambodia, poor baby. And that's hard when your child is sick. But you had such a good attitude. You tried so hard to participate. But yeah, he got intestinal distress. And the nice thing is, though, that almost everywhere I've ever been, you go to a pharmacy and you say, "Here's what's wrong with my kid." And they set you up. So we got some great drugs and he was good within a day or so.
Oh, maybe that should be a week, is all the illegal drugs that you've gotten over the
let's
years.
not talk about that.
the
I feel like I could be sued for something like that. No, we're not revealing names. No. So there are certain stories. Stop. Look, people are watching this. It's not just our house.
Okay. So. Okay. I'm sorry, everybody that might be offended by that.
No, there are just some adventures that stay in the adventure.
Ooh, do we have any adventures like that should like kind of stay in the adventure while while I've been on traveling?
Things that have happened that should stay.
Like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Why would I discuss that in front of an audience?
Well, I don't mean like actually bad adventurous moments, but like kind of moments that are kind of edgy teenage travel.
Oh, like sketchy things. I think the sketchy things that I've done in my travels have been without you guys with me.
Yeah, and that is another lesson, is that if you travel with teens, then also that will probably generally eliminate a lot of your like risks. Like you're not going to go like, "Oh, well, I might as well take the 50-cent bus. I'm not even going to have to." You're going to be like, "Oh, let's take this."
Oh, but that's a really good point you just brought up, though. One of the things we learned on our family vacation to Paris was Uber is our friend. Remember? As much as I love the metro, we had 6 people with us. And it just kind of occurred to me after a while that taking a 9-year-old and 4 boys that were all young in the metro was kind of not as much fun as just taking an Uber. Using Uber like really with impunity when you travel that's money well spent. And also like when we got to Vietnam together, I was with him. It was just him and I. And yeah, if I was by myself, I would have taken public transit to the hotel. But I'm like, no, I've got a 12-year-old with me. I'm going to go call a taxi. Like, that's just something you need to build into your budget when you're traveling with kids, is to be able to just drop money on an Uber. Because sometimes kids are just done. And dragging them down to the metro and trying to make them walk blocks and blocks is going to go poorly for everybody. Yeah, I remember coming home from Disneyland Paris. That was... on the metro, that was ugly. We should have booked a car.
That was so much fun though, because it was like you see like the 1,000 people that are all going to be getting on the metro, and we're like, we gotta go.
Yeah, no, we ran, like we all ran out of Disneyland Paris. We ran because it was like every one of these people are going to get on the RER as soon as this show is over. And I have small children with me, and we like linked up and we ran, all of us ran to try and get on the train.
That was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. So anyway, traveling with kids is amazing and horrifying and hard and hilarious, and it's all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well worth it. And I just think the way it changes kids' points of view. I don't know, but that's just me. You need to speak to that, I think.
I would say that if I didn't go traveling, then I would
Be a depressed, edgy teen.
A, I would be a depressed edgy teen, and B, I mean, like, I would be so lame. Like, I would suck if I didn't go traveling. I would, because it's like, you see things while you're traveling that, like, they make you think, and they make you keep thinking for years. Like, what's a moment like that? What's a moment that just, like, makes you think? I think even things like the metro in Paris. We took the metro in Paris, and it's like, oh, this is so easy. Why don't we have this back in the U.S.?
Yeah.
And then you just keep thinking about that, and keep thinking about that, and like, and that's the thing, is that you might think that it's just a vacation, but for kids, it's not. It's a life experience thing.
And it's also meeting, you have the opportunity in some cases, if you can swing it, to meet kids from other cultures. Like when we were in London, we visited with my friend Adam, who's a tour guide in London, and he met us for lunch with his daughter, who's the same age as Lucca. And that was cool. You met Boris, the volcanologist's daughter in Sicily, who
She's
is,
great.
that's really Lucca's soulmate. Someday they've got to meet again.
If you're watching.
So yeah, so meeting kids from other cultures, the same age as you, that's a little hard to engineer if you're just a casual traveler, but that's something that I've tried to cultivate with my group of friends.
Well, if you just meet a big group of kids, like we were talking about, that speak a little English, then it's not that hard.
Well, and
They
giving
all have phones.
Yeah, and giving kids like some freedom to go and hang out in places that kids are, like the piazza or the coffee shop or whatever, so you can see if you can meet some kids.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. There was a moment that we were in Arles, and the guy was like, and one of the people that we were with was kind of off. I think he was getting vegetables or something, and we were just in the square, and we just started playing with some kids that spoke a little French, little English, and that was fun. And you remember that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think you guys ended up playing kick the can or something like that.
Yeah, with a whole bunch of kids.
Whole bunch of French kids. Yeah, so just giving the kids, so having those moments that are unstructured and giving the kids the opportunity to meet other people maybe within their age range is pretty cool. All right, well, you heard it here. Lucca recommends travel because otherwise you would be a lame person.
Otherwise, I would be a terrible person. I would be lame. I would be awful. If you want better kids, take them traveling.
I just got lucky. I got an angel. I was very fortunate. I'd like to say it was travel or good parenting, but I think sometimes you just get lucky. So anyway, so
We're trying to sell tours here. You can't give away your secret.
That was not the point of this. I just thought this would be an enlightening conversation for people that follow me to hear your point of view on travel. So it makes your kids interesting, that's for sure.
It does.
All right, so we're going to sign off for now. If you guys have any questions for Lucca about traveling with teenagers or with kids, Lucca and Nico both are good at answering these questions, so you can post them in the comments. And otherwise, we're going to just keep on going on with a conversation about travel with children this week. Nico, if we can bribe him, might also participate at some point, but we'll talk about packing with kids, and we'll do some cooking. Maybe we'll think about a recipe that Lucca and I have done together in our travels. So Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks for all of your support. And let's hope that we have a really good year of travel. I really wish for all of you that you get to travel to the place that you're dreaming of seeing in 2022. So stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you again later this week. But
before we end,
yes,
we can still see your comments after the video ends. So please, if you have any questions for me, then put them in the comments. Of course, I don't think very many of you have questions for me, but questions for her too. Put them in the comments, and we can answer them next video.
We can answer them in the next video, or we can also reply to the comments on Facebook. So anyway, all right, we'll see you again later this week. Ciao, ciao.